Did you know one man may have altered the bloodline of millions of women? Not through love, not through marriage, but through brutal conquest? When we talk about Genghis Khan, most people imagine the warrior who built the largest empire the world had ever seen. But behind the battlefield victories lies a disturbing truth, one that scarred entire generations of women and still leaves its mark today. This isn't the story of empire building. This isn't about strategy, trade, or Mongol brilliance on horseback. This is about what history books often whisper about, but rarely confront head-on. What happened to women when Genghis Khan's armies swept across Asia and Europe? Behind every burning city and every mountain of skulls was another tragedy. Millions of women taken, violated, forced into marriages, and left without a choice. By some estimates, his actions left a genetic footprint in as many as 0.2 million people alive today. But numbers alone don't tell the horror. The reality is far darker. In the early 13th century, entire kingdoms trembled at the sound of hoofbeats. The Mongols were not just another nomadic tribe. Under the command of Temujin, later known as Genghis Khan, they became an unstoppable force. Cities that resisted were leveled to the ground. Populations were slaughtered in the tens of thousands. But for women, the terror went beyond fire and blood. When Mongol banners appeared on the horizon, it meant more than just war. It meant the tearing apart of families, the humiliation of being paraded as spoils, and the loss of any sense of safety. Marriage, consent, dignity, these things vanished under Mongol rule. Women became property, symbols of conquest, and tools for empire building. And here's the problem. The Mongol Empire wasn't small. It stretched from China to Eastern Europe. This meant the suffering was not confined to one city, or one culture, or one faith. It spread across continents. Millions of women, noble and common, rich and poor, all faced the same brutal fate. For Genghis Khan, women were not just part of his plunder, they were part of his strategy. By taking women, he broke dynasties, erased bloodlines, and rewrote history in his own image. And the most chilling part? This wasn't random cruelty, it was systematic. When the Mongols descended upon a city, the outcome was almost always the same. Surrender meant survival for some. Resistance meant annihilation. But even surrender did not guarantee safety for women. Genghis Khan and his generals developed a ruthless system. After a city fell, men were often executed en masse. Skilled artisans or soldiers who could serve the Mongols might be spared. But women? They were divided like spoils of war. Young women and girls were set aside, inspected, and claimed by the victors. Noble women were sometimes reserved for high-ranking officers or Genghis Khan himself. Common women became slaves, concubines, or forced wives. Imagine the terror, the sound of screams echoing through burning streets, the smell of smoke filling the air, and soldiers pulling women from the arms of their families. This was not a rare scene. It was repeated again and again across Persia, Central Asia, China, and Eastern Europe. Some of the most tragic stories come from royal families. To break the power of ruling dynasties, Genghis Khan often seized noble women, forcing them into marriages with his sons or allies. Princesses who once held status and dignity were reduced to bargaining chips in a game of conquest. One Persian chronicler wrote that the Mongols treated queens like trophies, parading them as symbols of their victory. But this wasn't just humiliation, it was strategy. By taking royal women, Genghis Khan could erase bloodlines and replace them with his own. Entire dynasties vanished in a single generation. Historians and geneticists today point to a chilling fact. Around 1 in every 200 men alive today carries DNA that traces back to Genghis Khan or his close male relatives. That's roughly 16 million people. This wasn't achieved through love or voluntary unions. It was the direct result of mass forced relationships, women stripped of choice, used to expand a bloodline by force. Now, think about what that number really means. 16 million descendants don't represent romance or family growth. They represent the scale of violation spread across half the known world. For women, survival often meant submission. To refuse was to die. To resist was to see your family executed before your eyes. The Mongols understood this. They didn't just use violence to expand their empire. They used women's bodies as weapons of war, a way to crush morale and leave cities too broken to resist again. One eyewitness in Nishapur wrote of mass executions where women were taken away before the killing began. The men were slaughtered, the city reduced to rubble, and the women distributed among the conquerors. Generations later, the trauma still haunted the region. What makes this story even more haunting is how few of these women's voices survive. History was written by men, often by the victors, and their suffering was rarely recorded in their own words. We have fragments, a chronicler's note here, a rumor there, a line about a princess taken as a concubine, but the silence is deafening. It reminds us that the true scope of this tragedy is far larger than we'll ever know. And yet, what Genghis Khan did to women wasn't just about his time. The shadow of his actions still lingers today. His empire is gone, but his bloodline lives on. And the question remains, was this one man's lust for power or a calculated method of control that changed the fate of entire civilizations?